Hello, this is TelecomTV. I'm Martin Warwick, and we're here with our exclusive content from Broadband World Forum 2015, which is being held here in London's Docklands at the Excel Exhibition Centre. And I'm talking with Amol Phadke, who is MD Global Virtualisation Offering Lead at Accenture.
Hi.
Hello, Amol. Thanks very much for talking to us. I'd just like to begin by asking you this. What are your clients telling you are the key drivers of virtualization and programmability in the network?
So our clients are basically saying to us that we need a change. There is a disruption model that's happening in the industry. Their revenues are saturated or are growing at a very slow pace. Their costs are spiraling up, and there is completely new consumer demand coming both from the residential side and from the enterprise B2B side that is completely unprecedented. And what the telcos are telling us is, could you give us a view on how virtualization could be used as an enabler for me to get out of this vicious cycle of declining revenues and increasing costs and constant consumer demand and become the disruptors as opposed to the disrupted. So that's what the clients are coming to us and telling us. And what they are really saying is their drivers are, I would like operational flexibility, I would like a business model that is sustainable, I would like operational costs to be an order of magnitude lower than what they are today, and I would like the top line benefits very similar to what some of the digital giants in the world today enjoy. So that's the drivers for virtualization from their perspective.
So they're not really asking for very much at all, are they?
No.
So that's a big order, however you look at it. So they're coming to Accenture with these sort of problems. Now, if virtualization is about creating new business models for service providers, what do you think they're going to be?
So I think there is a horizontal business model that is going to have to come up in this industry. I mean, today, the business model of a telco is essentially a vertical model where a set of specific systems and infrastructure together provide the platforms on which telcos can offer connectivity based services. Now, this is highly verticalized, and although it's profitable in some parts, overall that business model is declining. The horizontal business model that I talked about is a model where you look at your network infrastructure, you look at it from a opening up of the ecosystem perspective. You look at a large number of players that can offer you innovative solutions. You build a platform that can actually start offering bundled services. And more importantly, you are not really linked to a specific technology, a solution, or a specific infrastructure constraint, which means now you really have the degree of freedom to kind of go horizontal and start offering services that typically you wouldn't offer. For example, you would offer broadband or phone or TV today, but how about offering them bundled banking? How about offering them other bundled solutions that they typically get from various other parties? And that is the kind of horizontal business model that telcos are actually talking to us about.
Of course, when we talk about transformation, we're not just talking about technology transformation, are we? We're talking about something much bigger, which is the business transformation of everything that an operator is used to, and that includes the cultural environment in which they work. It's a major process, a huge process, and a difficult process. How can Accenture help the operators and the service providers through that, almost like being a midwife into bringing this new entity into being?
That's a perfect example, and you're spot on in terms of what they need to do. I mean, I wouldn't have described Accenture as a midwife, but I think that's a great analogy. I think if I look at what the telco needs to do and what Accenture can help, I think there is immense opportunity for the telco. I think the industry requires help in pretty much 5 dimensions, I would say. Number one is people, and that's where again Accenture uses the breadth of its capabilities to try and see how the workforce of the future is going to be able to manage and operate this new business model and ecosystem that I talked about. Number two, the technical transformation itself is quite significant. because you are talking about very disruptive technologies coming in and typically changing the landscape of the vendors in this ecosystem, which means a lot of transformative elements are required to manage that vendor ecosystem. And that's another area where Accenture can definitely help. Number 3 is on the system side, where of course Accenture is a leader in terms of helping some of the customer facing systems and the operations facing systems get transformed to cater to this new environment. Number 4 is more around the governance and the business case, which is actually the point where operators would like to start, and Accenture actually strongly recommends they do start. Because what would happen is you're going to have to start having a conversation around how does your business look like, what are the products and services that you will offer in this new market, do a product analysis, do a operating model analysis, because that leads you to trying to understand what are the levers you have in the business to do the investments in the infrastructure, systems, people. The last area is of course processes. Every telco has a set of processes that they use to manage themselves and the customer, and that's an area that again will require significant transformation, where Accenture of course has global capabilities that it can help the telcos transform this. So those are the 5 areas I would say.
Thank you. Now, when you were talking about those 5 areas, those 5 dimensions, you mentioned this is where Accenture would recommend that you start. I'm going to put that in a bit more context then. I'm an operator and I know I've got to transform and virtualize, or I'm going to go to the wall. Something has to happen. But where do I start? What would Accenture advise that I do very first thing?
I think the first principle that they have to start looking at is the business model, the governance and the financial model, because that is really the underpinning that is going to dictate how you go about doing this transformation. The other aspect, critical aspect, is that there is a lot of investment that's going to be required to actually go along that transformation journey before you enjoy the benefits. That investment is going to only come through if you actually look at it from a first principles business view and try and understand what is our business going to look like, what are the services we're going to sell, and how does the business model around that look like. Once that is done, and these conversations need to be happening at the C-suite, then the business model takes place, and then some of the other transformative elements that I described can happen. But that is exactly the right place to start before we start spending a lot of energy, resources and time around the technical aspects, the people, process, system, infrastructure aspects.
Very interesting indeed. Amol Phadke, thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thank you.